Well, well. Oh wow, why am I so? Oh, am I downloading something by accident? What's going on here? Hello. Well, I don't know what's going on at the moment. I'm a bit. Hold on. Let me see if this can fix it. There, that's fixed it. That's fixed it. Well, that's better. At least I'm not like that anymore. But anyway, wow. Wow. um I did not expect this result. I expected something like this result. Because how long have I been telling you who gets to the final round? Who is it? Whose contest is this to win? Like whose contest is this to win now? We're going to be going over that in a moment, but oh my word. It's already being described, from what I've seen already, as one of the biggest political own goals in history. Yeah, wow. But anyway, greetings, good evening, and everyone, of course. Welcome to the Wednesday Night Live. Thank you all for joining me this evening on what is, I think, going to prove to be a very interesting contest, because I've been predicting what will happen now for a while. But before we get more into that, like I say, people in chat, hello, Belzeroth, hello to you, Dave W, hello to you, Anthony Fisher, good evening to you, Cathlo G, evening to you, Tim, evening to you, David Walker, hello to you as well. Charles, good evening to you. Roger, good evening to you. Colin, good evening to you. Blue Badger, good evening to you as well. Good evening, everyone. Please hit the like, hit the share button. Let us share the love of what, quite frankly, as is already being described, as I said earlier, a moment where a team has scored a complete own goal. James Cleverly, the man who, after the Conservative conference, was perceived to be the one. He was the one who was going to come forward and save the Conservative Party. Ian Dale, if you know Ian Dale, journalist, but also guy on LBC as well, he wrote a full article on how, look, it doesn't matter, because now the Conservative Party membership is going to get a real choice, because they're going to get a choice between, James godlike Cleverly and probably Robert Jerrick. That's what he was predicting. I thought very, very much so. I thought very, very, very much so Kimmy Badenoch was going to get squeezed out of this, and that this would be a Jerrick Cleverly final two, which ultimately Jerrick would win. And now Kimmy Badenoch's in the final two. Guess who's going to win now? Because who do the membership want? Who have we been saying for weeks, for months now? If Badenoch gets to the final two, she wins. This is no contest now. Badenoch wins. Why? Because the membership want her. They want her bad. They just absolutely want her on this. She wins this next part. If she doesn't, I will be very surprised. But from everything we've seen, all the polls, constantly, Kimmy Badnock wins this contest outright. And there is a reason. We'll be going into this later. Labour and the Lib Dems are absolutely rubbing their hands with glee this evening. Like, they are rubbing their hands with glee this very evening. Oh, but anyway, back to the chat. So good evening to everyone joining us as well, by the way. Good evening. Francis, good evening to you. Simon Bamford, Return of the Nasty Party will be back. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Is this the return of the Nasty Party in so many ways, which back in 2002, Theresa May did a speech at a Tory conference calling that out, that they can't be that party anymore, that they've got to move on from that. And now they're going to go back to it. Yep, Craig, the choice is now between Dumb and Dumberer. Absolutely. Absolutely. They have... Like, what comes next is going to be even interesting. And who they finally choose, well, oh boy. Oh boy, is it going to be interesting. Duke Vengeance, good evening to you. James Dumberley, who admitted to drugging his wife and nothing was done about it. Oh, is that the Conservative guy? I think it was. Was it the Conservative guy? I can't remember now. Yeah. Can we have a conversation about how maternity benefits are just too high? Oh, Labour and the Lib Dems are begging Kimmy Badnock to have that conversation because her poll rating is just going to tank off a cliff. Craig, Truss must be absolutely ecstatic. She now has a chance of being looked on at least more fondly by her fellow Tories as a great thinker and capable leader. Well, whoever is going to look back on Truss favorably, I don't know. I don't know if that will happen. I don't know if they will seriously look back on Truss favorably like that after this. I think, honestly, if you read some of like how Truss's speech went down at the Conservative Party conference, it went down very bad. She's gone. I think they need to start, just shuffling her off into the corner of the room and giving her some Legos to play with. She'll be get on with herself. She'll be fine. Yvonne, the Tories are doomed. Exactly, they are absolutely doomed now. Starmer needs to start each new PMQs with now. Well, where do I start this week, Mr. Speaker? Absolutely. Like I say, what comes next? I am basically at this point 99.9% sure the winner of this next part of the contest is going to be Kimmy Badnock. I will be shocked if it is not. Like, I will be shocked if it is not. Colin, this is easily the best gift Keir Starmer received. It didn't even have to declare it. Exactly. We'll be getting on into this a moment. What the Labour and Lib Dem reaction has been to this, but they are like that, rubbing their hands with glee. Craig, this week's PMQ starts with the new traditional argument between Badnock and the Speaker, followed by her now flouncing out of the chamber and the Tories now looking awkward. Oh my word. If that ever genuinely happened, like, Kimmy Badnock just has a full-on Barney with the Speaker, and then, like, flounces out of the chamber. Like that will be it. That will be. I don't know if you will get any more peak Tory than that. I genuinely don't know. I genuinely don't know. But let's have a look at the results, shall we? Because remember, going into this, yesterday's vote, Cleverly was on top. And Cleverly was on top by about 10 points, 10 or 11 points compared to Jarek and Badnock. And they were sort of neck and neck. I think there were only like 2 points in between them. So everyone was thinking Cleverly's in the final two. Like Cleverly easily in the final two. Mike, I don't know. Honestly, they want Kemi. I've been telling you this for a while. They want Kemi. They want Kemi Badnock. Don't ask me why. The Conservative membership absolutely loves Kemi Badnock. It's like, why all of a sudden did they absolutely love Liz Truss out of nowhere? It's the exact same reason. Yeah, it's cruel now to Tory backbenchers that a lot of bars in Westminster may be closing just as when they need them most. Exactly. Exactly. The next Tory MP will probably be a guy named Ed McGuinness, and he lost in Surrey Heath, but he's at least a sensible pro-European and at least young. Who knows? Maybe. Possible. Possible. But anyway, let's have a look at what's Conservative Home when they were announcing this, when they announced this, because like I say, Cleverly dropping out has surprised everyone. Everyone indeed. And we'll get more into that in a moment as well. Because there was now a assumption that Cleverly dropping out, or at least putting Cleverly in this position, was a conspiracy theory organized by apparently Jarek and Badnock. I don't think that's true, because I don't think the Tories generally are smart enough to be able to organize something like that. But anyway, let's go into this. So, who won? Who won here? So you can see it very clearly. Kemi Badnock on 42, James Cleverly on 37, Robert Jarek on 41. So Badnock is up by 12, Jarek is up by 10, Cleverly is down 2. That means the vast majority of MPs that were backing Tom Tugendhat have gone and backed the right wing candidates, not the quote centrist, again, centrist in air quotes, candidate that was, of course, meant to be James Cleverly. Tells you a direction where the party wants to go in as well, with its own MPs on that one. So this is massive on this. And of course, there's going to be a live debate on GB News. 17th of October. Am I free? Am I free on the 17th of October? 1 second. Let me look up this. I would make sure that I'm free on this date. I hope I am free because I want to watch that live. Like, I want to watch that live. When is that? That's next week. 17th. I might not be. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully I can swing it. Hopefully I can swing it. But yeah, let's see what the Conservative reaction has been to this, because this has generally been quite a surprise. So, this is Giles Dillnot. This is the new guy, the head guy, head editor now over at Conservative Home. Let's see what he's had to say on this. So this now means that both Jerick and Badnock will now go to the final members vote, which result will now be announced at this point on the 2nd of November. GB News live debate on October 17th. Cleverly, of course, may not understand what has happened. The commentators don't right now, and his team won't. It will be very fascinating to actually find out how you can go from joint third to last with such a conference surge, and 24 hours later be completely out of the analysis for Conservative historians for years. And this is what is flummoxing many of them now. Like, this is what is flummoxing many of these Conservatives now. If you go on Twitter or anything like that, you look at all like the Conservative commentators, they're all freaking out because they all thought, oh, we're gonna elect someone sensible. We're gonna elect James Cleverly, even though, again, Cleverly's not sensible at all, as I've said many times. Cleverly by name, Cleverly not by nature. Oh, so yeah, that will be interesting to say the least. That will be say the least. Good evening, Sarah Davis, as well. Good evening. Like I say, please do remember to click on the like and share button as well. Let's share more people, share that I'm live at the moment. Like I say, that all helps. Thank you very much. Yeah, not sure saying that Cleverly just doesn't understand really makes it very unique because he's not that bright. Exactly. So, quote, likability, which almost everyone in Westminster knows Cleverly now has in spades, was never going to be enough just in itself. He's not the criteria, not in our top 3 of members' priorities for the Conservative Home Survey. Some don't rate him. Others say his experience was now, or at least was, extensive. It is not actually littered, of course, with triumph. The China Hawks will be particularly critical, which is now compounded by his role in negotiations on the Chalgis Islands, even though no deal was actually done. The real problem may have been that just too many saw him as just too much continuity and not enough to actually tackle the reasons why we lost an election. I said that going in. I said that going into this conference. I said that going into this leadership conference. Cleverly's just got too much baggage. He's got far too much baggage with him. The idea that the MPs elect him, or at least get him to the final 2, was going to be a long shot. I thought he would have been out of this contest a long time. I thought this would be not James Cleverly. I thought this would be Tom Tugendhat. Like, I thought Tom Tugendhat was probably the one who was going to get the furthest out of anyone else potentially of this contest, because he's the least baggage out of everyone that we've seen in this contest. But even if he got to the final 2, the members aren't going to vote for him. Still too much baggage. Way too much baggage. Oh, Billy, good evening to you. Evening Badgers, good evening to you. Craig, it says a lot that Cleverly is cost now a step down from his predecessor in this constituency, given that his predecessor accidentally mass tweeted. That's potentially true. That is very true. Duke Vengeance. Maybe the Tory voters woke up now long enough to actually realize Cleverly had gotten far too far in this leadership contest. Maybe. But remember, it's not the Conservative voters, it's Conservative MPs. And what has happened here has caused a lot of shock at the moment. And he's right. At this moment in time, no one really knows what's gone on. That's for sure. Daily Blaze, good evening to you. Good evening, Ollie. Evening, all. I hope everyone is now feeling much better. At least our James not so cleverly. That's very true. Yeah, this honestly, there's a lot of talk about what may have gone on in the background. There's talk about vote swapping. The 20 or so MPs that Tom Tugendhat had last vote. Well, we know where they went. They went to Badnoch and they went to Jarek, or say generic, generic Jarek. But it's causing a bit of consternation in behind the scenes. Like I say, we'll get to that in a moment. But I just want to get what the Conservative reaction has been sought on this. He also may have suffered now with MPs until after that election. He hadn't really shown any obvious enthusiasm for the role. Jarek and Badnoch will be brave not to have him by their side, of course, if they win. But whatever they decide, he has a track record of backing loyalty, whoever the party picks its lead, a trait that he'd have now played back to the party if he'd won. But that'd be it. It was now a completely unexpected result. Where his personal support goes next could be very vital. Remember, it's not down to the MPs now. It's not down to the MPs. It is now down to membership vote. Membership vote now comes in here. And it's all up to them who they pick. And I've been saying this, I don't know for how long, it is going to be Kimmy Badnoch. So, meanwhile, of course, there will now be a very huge media hunt to try and dig out how this result actually happened. And of course, we at Conservative Home will try our best, obviously, to explain it. But the reality is that this battle now moves away from Parliament and now to the contest now goes to our members. And of course, let's have a look at what they've been saying in the comments, because as I keep on telling you, comments on the Conservative Home, very, very illuminating. Very, very illuminating indeed, these comments on Conservative Home, more often than not. Someone says, well, I don't like to say it, but I told you so. Badnoch versus Jarek. Thought cleverly might squeak through for a bit there, but down to the bookies now to collect. Gosh, to have made a bet like that when this had all started. There's definitely a bit of a fix. Perhaps I'm now being a bit too cynical, or perhaps it was Cleverly's team trying to manipulate who the last two ended up being, of course, not so cleverly. This is what a lot of people are thinking. Was this a stitch up now between Badnoch and Generic? Did Cleverly maybe try and engineering something and completely mess this up? We probably might not know for a while. We may never know, but it just seems really bizarre that you were in the lead above everyone else, and now you've literally fallen out of the trade. So bizarre. On this, yeah. James not so cleverly snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, very true. If he was clever, he would just stay on the back benches and try again in 2026. Very, very true. Very, very true. If you were a smart Tory right now and you seriously wanted to go for the leadership bid, you would be sitting back. You would just sit back on the back benches and just let them get on with it, and then just come out and go, right, the party's being screwed over. You're all the problems. This is all what's going on. Here's what we really need to do. Fundamental, complete change of how we do things. We're going to ditch this free market fundamentalist ideology. And we're going to turn away from essentially copying the American Republican Party, and instead we're going to go and we're going to copy more European conservative parties in what policies and styles that they have been doing, rather than copying the Americans. Of course, they'll still have a very long road back, but it will certainly re-win them some support that they've lost. But oh boy, yeah. But anyway, we'll get into more of these comments in a bit. Good evening to you. Yeah, sure, I'm down for that. The Tories, we can't, of course, discount that Cleverly had now a bet on himself going out at this point. Well, that's true. That's very true as well. That's very true as well. So Cyril Celsius says Cleverly was obviously going to offer more of the very same for the Tories, which the electorate now roundly rejected at the last election. He is the modern, now Willie Whitelaw, not the PM material. Even so, you do have to admire the total contempt for which Tory MPs loathe their membership. Cleverly was, of course, the clear winner of the conference. Apparently, so the parliamentary party threw him out at the first opportunity. Here's the thing. The membership does not want Cleverly. The membership has never wanted Cleverly at any point in this contest. So I would challenge that assertion that, the Conservative Party threw him out, or there's, been some, skullduggery happening behind the scenes. Anyway, he continues. Jarek, he says, offers nothing different from Farage. So why vote for a Farage wannabe when you can actually vote for reform, for the real thing? Both, of course, very one-trick ponies, basing their appeal only on immigration. I do regret Tugendhat being rejected by the parliamentary party, but whilst, of course, he was very different in style and substance, Badenoch now is the really only real choice. Whether she makes a success of leadership, assuming she wins, remains to be seen, but she deserves a chance, in my view. She really doesn't. She really doesn't. She's not the choice. It is a terrible choice. It is an absolutely abysmal choice that has gone on here. So the party that showed it can no longer run a country over the past 14 years now has shown that it can't even run a leadership contest. It has now systematically excluded the best candidates now in sequence. And we are left now with the gaffe-prone middle managers. Oh, well, at least I should pick up my winnings when Jarek tops the members' vote. But at least Labour will out be licking their lips. Again, I don't think it's Jarek that's going to win this. When we've looked at the polls, when we've done videos about this, who's been the winner? It's been Kimmy Badenoch. Kimmy Badenoch beats everyone head to head. Oh, thank you very much, Cathology. Badenoch reckons at least 5 to 10% of civil servants should be locked up. Jarek wants to drop the ECRC, and of course is upset by murals. These are not serious people. Exactly. They are absolutely not serious people whatsoever. Looks like Bozo Boris wants to come back now in 2026 to become leader of the Tories. Well, you never know. You never know if he might end up sneaking back in a by-election. Who knows? And then, of course, he's going to try and reclimb that greasy pole again to be at the top. Because if his book's anything to go by, he definitely wants another crack at that position. Absolutely wants a second crack at that. Like, he wants it bad. Yeah, someone said, I don't really want to say our MPs are thick, but was it really possible to get tactical voting so wrong to that extent? Oh, dear. Yeah, like I say, they're all in a bit of a tizzy about what went on here in this voting. Badenoch likes Truss seem to speak at least fluent Conservative member, but I think both now come over as very, very tri-odd to outsiders, also known as the general electorate. The more I think about it, the more I think the Conservatives are going to consign themselves to oblivion, and it didn't need to happen, but I think it will. The real winners today are Labour. Wow. This is exactly what happens when party activists from every party indulge themselves in the false belief that the ordinary voters think as they do, as a mirror image of Labour's Corbyn folly. Someone else said, I tend to disagree. I tend to agree, but the Lib Dems will probably be most delighted. Oh, they absolutely are. Like I say, we'll get to that in a moment. Of all this lot, of lots of now juicy blue wall seats may now come into play while the other parties scramble for red wall seats. Someone else here. Surely the real point is that Kimmy Badenoch's detractors miss in that her 42 votes dictated that, at worst, she was guaranteed a place in the final membership vote. Even if it took place, vote leaning, speculation now in other comments, this did not now affect that outcome. Congratulations, Kemi. Someone else says there had now clearly been a stitch up by Badnock or even Jarek or both. There is no rational way that the frontrunner would now lose 2 votes and gain precisely 0 votes from Tugendhat supporters. What a mess. This is now going to create now more internal warfare. Oh, it will. This absolutely will create more internal warfare. And it will now result in the crowning of a leader who will drive us to become even more unpopular. Kissing goodbye to that under 50 vote, assuming either of these clowns actually still place at the time of the next election. Reform now most likely to form the next government. No, they won't. Or at least now be the next official opposition. No, they won't. This is like when Labour appointed Corbyn. Absolute idiocy. Someone else says to that in response to that, Labour, of course, the very clear winners from this, not Reform. Reform and the Conservatives will now split the right-wing vote between them. Neither are able to actually break into the centre ground. Labour will now get majorities now as low as 30% of the votes. Buckle down for a decade of Labour. Someone else here says, so I'm now once again left with the exact same choice as the last leadership collection. 1, a candidate who clearly does not have any leadership capabilities and is not prime minister material, being Sunak/Jarek. And 2, a candidate now with very minimal experience, views concentrated towards the extreme end, and who the mainstream will want out immediately as they focus now on the wrong policies /trust Badnock. But as others said, the real problem now is actually the death now of the potential long-term visionary leaders across the whole political establishment. The country now in the next 20 years will be confronted by social change not seen for the past 100, but we can all saw it coming. Who is this vision actually to start prepare us for that? We had someone, but Johnson drove them all out. Someone that says, who considers Badnock extreme? Farewell to the Conservative Party, farewell Conservative home. Neither of you will have now the slightest relevance till long after I'm dead. That the party of Churchill, Macmillan, and Thatcher has now come to this, a right-wing populist freak show. Someone else said, if Kerry wins, it will now be one gaffe after another, and firefighting now to row back and deny what she said, and didn't even know if she said it, that she actually meant it. Oh boy. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. That will be that will go insane. Just oh my god, the gaffs, the potential gaffs if Kimmy Badnock wins. It's gonna be funny. Don't get me wrong, it's gonna be funny. And it's generally going to be funny this time because they're not going to be in power. But the real winners of this, as I've said many times, going to be the Lib Dems. You've got a party that is focusing constantly on reform, reform, reform. It's Reform UK who are the real, threat to us. Who do they lose more seats to? They lost more seats to the Lib Dems. And the Lib Dems have specifically set their sights of at the next election, not winning it, but becoming the main part of the opposition. And depending how the next 5 years go, that is eminently doable. And something like this happening plays into that. John Clements, who'd have thought the Lib Dems would actually gain some blue wall seats, maybe even pushing the Conservatives into 3rd place? Hey, the way that these events are unfolding, that may very well happen. That very well may happen. And just think, could you imagine going back in like 2019 after the victory of Boris Johnson and like his majority that he won and going to them and saying, oh yeah, by the way, in 2024, you've got to have gone through 5 leaders, lost a huge majority in your election, you're going to be out of power, and potentially the Lib Dems are now looking at trying to become the main party of opposition. Could you imagine how much you would get laughed out of the room saying stuff like that in 2019? That would be insane. It would be insane. James Mack, has this now just ensured another Labour election victory? Pretty much, almost, because this isn't going to be the last leadership contest. This isn't going to be the last leadership contest. Like, generally, like I say this honestly and truthfully, this is not going to be the last leadership contest. By the time of the next general election in 2029, we are going to have at least 2, if not 3, Conservative Party leadership elections. Like, this is not the last one. We're going to have another one at least in a year's or 2 years' time. I guarantee you it. I guarantee you it. Whoever wins this will not be taking the Conservative Party into the next general election. What will happen potentially now is you're probably going to see, again, it's difficult. It's really difficult to predict what's going to happen in the next general election because it's far too far away to be really thinking this. But it is very likely this will get another Labour victory. Like, it will very likely this will be another Labour victory. Very likely so. What the chances are, I'm very hesitant to say because 2029 is a long way off. And to look at a general election like that, we don't know what's going to happen with the next 5 years. You know, look where we were last time in 2019 to say where we are. Go back and tell a Conservative celebrating their 2019 victory what's going to happen to them in 2024. They would laugh you out of the room. But it almost has in a way. It almost has in this. And the next general election, I think you're going to see the Lib Dems really clean up a lot of the blue wall. Really clean up a lot of the blue wall. Yeah, PMQs is now going to be extremely interesting, having Badnock now argue with the speaker and people who aren't even there. And then Ed Davey asking now the real questions of Labour. Yeah, that's potentially what's going to happen now for the next 2 years. That is what is going to happen now for the next 2 years. I wonder how long till we start seeing Tory MPs now fleeing a Badnock-run Tory party. Bets on who and how soon. Who? That's difficult. That's difficult. But it would not surprise me to see some go. I mean, if I was the Lib Dems, if I was Ed Davey, I'd be putting feelers out right now amongst the Conservative Party, at least the more moderate ones, the more One Nation people, and trying to see who you could win over. Because the direction the party now goes in is very, very right wing. Very, very right wing on that one. Do you think Keith will? Do you mean Keir will last that long? Oh, absolutely. He's forget what the papers are saying about all this Giftgate and anything like that. Starmer didn't do anything wrong. He followed proper parliamentary procedure. He's got a massive majority. There's no general election until 2019. Keir Starmer is incredibly safe, despite what all the right-wing papers are saying, and what a lot of those commentators are saying. Keir Starmer is still incredibly safe. Incredibly safe. He is absolutely rock solid. So, yeah. Also, it looks like a mode apology by No Justice and Madge, because guess what? Rachel Reeves is changing the rules so that she can borrow more money. What did I say in those debates? What did I say in those debates? And they said that will never happen. The financial rules, but they can change those financial rules. I said, and guess what? They're changing those financial rules so that they can borrow more money. I'd just like to say thank you for once again time proving me right. Ugh. But I doubt any acknowledgement of that that has happened will be forthcoming by either of them. So there you go. Anyway, um, honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how long Kimmy Badenoch lasts. Yeah, I'd give Jerick 6 months and at least Kimmy half a year. The other thing we've got to point out is Robert Jerick supposedly now is in the thrall of the Suella Braverman faction. Apparently, according to as we covered, well, the video ago, they have Robert Jerick's balls. Like they have him by the balls. So if Jerick wins, that will prove very interesting. Maybe even the return of Suella Braverman to a leading Shadow Cabinet role. And again, why on earth would you ever do that? Oh. Someone else here says, now this is the best now possible outcome for the party or for the country, and yes, for Cleverly too. Once he gets over his disappointment, we need to get this crazy idea out of our system that the way to win elections now is to lurch even further to the right. Time for this the time to try crazy ideas is now, right now, while the electorate isn't looking. Whoever ends up is now going to be a ticking time bomb that is going to go off to fail and fail spectacularly. Cleverly will be able to hand and pick up the pieces. Even then, Cleverly would not be very well at all. You'd have hoped for at least this experience of what we did post 97. This was still very fresh enough to our minds to actually avoid another longer, of course, than necessary, and now, of course, a period in the wilderness. Shame that we need all reminding again. Let's see, are there any more good comments before we get this? Oh, yeah, this is funny. So I've heard all this before nearly 50 years ago. This is what they were saying about Kimmy Badenoch is exactly what was being said about Margaret Thatcher. And in her 4 years in opposition, Margaret Thatcher learned a lot and became one of the most formidable prime ministers of the last century. Here's the thing about the difference between Kimmy Badenoch and Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher actually had, as I was actually a politician, she actually had like political sense. Like comparing Kimmy Badenoch to like the political behemoth that was Margaret Thatcher and what she was able to do and accomplish with like her political power and her acumen and able to rule the Conservative Party with an iron fist. Kimmy Badenoch's not going to be able to do that. Hey. But this is what all the Badenoch supporters are saying, that she is the second coming of Thatcher. I kid you not. That is what, and it's right there for you. Right there in that comment. And someone else says here, but Thatcher, of course, didn't turn into a PM from nothing in 4 years in opposition. She always had incredible vision and a policy and total understanding now of detail. I do not see anything in Badenoch that shows she would understand the people and politics beyond the headlines of the Daily Telegraph. Thatcher would not indulge in all this garbage. Exactly. Exactly. Someone else here. And of course, if it all goes pear-shaped with Kemi, it might be in 2 or 3 years' time, will quite possibly be Boris Greta Johnson, who will make his great comeback from a safe seat, potentially in Richmond, Yorkshire. Oh, that would be hilarious if Kimmy Badenoch or Robert Jerick ends up handing the safe seat over to Boris Johnson. Like, that would be absolutely hilarious. Like, that would be absolutely hilarious if that were to happen. That Rishi Sunak steps down, because I honestly think Sunak is going to step down. Like, I think once this has happened, he's going to quietly step back onto the back benches, and then he'll just announce very quietly that he's going, and then there'll just be a by-election in North Yorkshire and Richmond. I really think that's going to be. Mr. L, the debate is not going to be a knife fight. It won't even be pistols at dawn. It will be machine guns. Oh boy. I hope it kicks off. I hope it kicks off at the debate. Because like I say, all you who are part of the Patreon or the Pony Clubbers, I've done a video for you today about this. But I said to you all, I do apologize that we've been following this Conservative Party conference, and it's been so boring so far. I mean, it really has. A lot of the contest stuff has been quite boring, and I've been trying to make it more interesting for you. But I will admit, this contest has been a lot more boring than I thought it would. I thought it was going to be a lot more knife fighty than this, and bare knuckled street fighting, but it didn't turn out like that. Maybe it will. Maybe this debate might get like that. I hope it does. I really hope it does. Yeah. I mean, assuming Badnock doesn't blow a top now in the first 5 minutes, the debate should go fine. That'll be true. I wonder who will be chairing that debate. That'll be interesting as well. But anyway, let's get on to this, because this is what you saw they were alluding to. This whole has there been some skullduggery? Has there been a bit of a conspiracy, or has there been a complete miscalculation somewhere? Has there been a complete miscalculation somewhere? Going to have a look at this now, because, like I say, this is something well worth following up on this. So cock up rather than conspiracy. The likely cause of Cleverly's surprise exit. So, whenever something unexpected happens in politics, two questions immediately arise. How the hell did it happen, and what does it mean? And with the latest twist now in the Conservative leadership race, the first of these at least presents no obvious answers. James Cleverly would have gone to bed on Tuesday night overwhelmingly confident that he would progress now to the final two. He had obviously topped the third round of voting by Tory MPs and had a very clear momentum, and of course was now the bookmakers' favourite. Those certainties came crashing down this Wednesday as a result now of the fourth and final round of the parliamentary vote, and now was read out to the assembled journalists and MPs. Cleverly had somehow lost 2 votes and, of course, was now out of the race, and Tory members will instead pick from either Kimmy Badnock and Robert Jerrick. This was a turnaround in fate for both sudden and very unexpectedly. Cleverly, now widely seen, of course, at the start of last week's Tory conference, had gone on Tuesday to become one of the short of the 40 MP backers needed to now guarantee progression into the final 3-horse race with just 120 voters. He had the definite momentum. Jerrick, the previous favourite, was now tipped to go. So you can see everyone was thinking that it's going to be Cleverly versus someone else. And I thought it was going to be Cleverly versus someone else. So when I heard that Cleverly had gone, this sort of shocked me as well. I was like, oh, okay, this is a turn up for the books. This is a real turn up for the books on that. So the immediate suspicion was that something nefarious had been going on. Either the camps, of course, lending votes to Cleverly on Tuesday to now inflate his backing, or was it Cleverly's camp seeking to boost Jarrett's support and make sure that the Shadow Home Secretary faced him rather than the more starry and charismatic Badnock in the members' vote? That is something that could potentially have happened. Because this is one of the things we were talking about right at the start. If you remember, I was predicting the first casualty of this, or of this Tory leadership race, wasn't going to be Priti Patel. It was going to be Mel Street. Sorry, Mel Stride. I always say his name wrong. Because Mel Stride was the literal hero of this contest. He was the comedy candidate. After winning in the general election by 63 votes, he thought he was God's gift to conservatism. And thought clearly he was meant to run. He was meant to run after just surviving. But no, the rumor was that the other top level candidates gave some of their votes or told some of their supporters, go vote for Mel because that knocks out Badnock. And with Badnock gone, Mel Street went next. This cleared the field more. So has there been some tactical voting? Absolutely. In that first round, there was some very clear tactical voting going on. But has now more happened here? Has this happened again? Did Cleverly make a miscalculation somewhere? Did Jarrett boost his numbers to make it look like he had all this support? We don't know. We may never know. But that is what everyone is scrambling around now to find out. They're all scrambling around now trying to find that out. Patrick H, good evening to you. Jarek looks like the favorite now. It's not Jarek. It's not Jarek. It's Kimmy Badnock. I've been saying this for weeks, for months. It's Kimmy Badnock. She's just incredibly popular with the membership. I am so confident. I am so confident she is like 99, 99 or like 95% certain. Like Jarek's chances of winning this next vote are very, very slim. Very, very slim. If not, it's going to be incredibly close. If he wins it, it'll be incredibly close by a very small margin. But if anything, this now is Kimmy Badnock's race to win. I've been saying this for months. Badnock gets to the final two. It's her race to win. She wins it. She gets the final two. She wins it. The membership have been screaming that they want Kimmy Badnock for months now. So if Jarek wins, I'll be very, very surprised. But I've already prepared myself for Kimmy Badnock. I am not going to be surprised if she wins. Not going to be surprised at all. Yeah. Anything Reform can do, we can do better. Yeah, Generic is going to have to really go full mental to stand a chance. He's going to have to go absolutely full mental because I think that debate on GB News is, oh boy, is that going to get interesting. That's going to get insanely interesting on that. That's for sure. So back to this. So, however, instead, of course, of a conspiracy-based effort to try and swing the contest, what seems more likely is a cock-up. A series now of individual MPs trying to vote in ways that they believed might help their candidate, with now unintended consequences. Yes, some MPs will, of course, simply change their mind when presented, of course, with a different choice. But others, of course, might have sought now to nudge the result in a certain way. So, for example, the assumption had been that most of Tom Tugendhat's 20 supporters would migrate to fellow centrist Cleverly, after, of course, he was knocked out of the race on Tuesday. But one Tugendhat backer told reporters they were instead picking Badenoch in an effort now to get Jerick eliminated, as they so disliked his policies. So is that what's happened? Has that been what's happened? That Tugendhat supporters have gone instead to try and oust Jerick, backed Badenoch, and in a way now defeated James Cleverly? Might be the case. Certainly looks like it. But oh boy. Oh, hang on. Am I? Oh no. Do 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 do. Oh no, we're back. There we go. The problem with the Tories choosing Badenoch is that the Tories who went to Reform will just not go to her, but they might vote for Jerick. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, there is a lot to say that if I've talked about this before about what I have dubbed a Farage phase, and a Farage phase is essentially the leader of the Conservative Party basically tries to bring in reform into the party. Like they try and bring in Nigel Farage and the rest of those 4 Reform MPs into their party and combine with them. Because as many people continually point out, Reform and the Conservatives are fighting for a very, very small vote share. And because they're just fighting solely on that ground, this leaves the massive swathe of the rest of the, general public voting populace is completely not interested in that. Is not there. They're not even targeting them. And as a result, it now makes sense to try and absorb them. However, many of the One Nation Tory MPs would hate that. They do not want to go in that direction because they know exactly what that means. That will mean going in a really hard far right direction. They have been fighting against that for years. And if that happened, then oh boy, there would be a split. And there would be a split in the Conservative Party. I'm talking new party formed completely. I think this could be massive. I generally do think they would do that. So yeah, Pikachu, you are right. Could some of the One Nation Tories now cede in a very similar fashion that the Gang of Four did secede from Labour now in the early 1980s? Very likely. If Farage is brought into the party, they will do that. I think they will level that threat. And will they go through with it? Who knows? Time will tell. But it would open a massive can of worms for the Tory party. Massive can of worms. Yeah. Thank you very much, Tory MPs, now for effectively neutralising Labour's misstep for over the past couple of weeks. That's very true. That's true. That could happen as well, Craig. They might very well walk up to the Lib Dems. They might very well do that. They might very well do that. Yep, maybe they'll merge the Lib Dems too. Maybe. Yet the Tories really do not have a route back to the centre ground. They're going far too far right, and the membership love it. Exactly. The membership are all down for this. The membership have bought their ticket a long time ago for this, and they've been waiting for this. They're loving this right now. There's very, very few in the membership, probably in the back rows of the roller coaster, really not wanting this, not looking forward to what's going to happen, and are looking, can they sneakily get out off this ride? But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. Yep. Did anyone see Farage talking about the Conservative leadership? I saw a man's video of him saying you can't you can't out Farage. And yeah, exactly. You can't out Farage at all. That's not how you beat Nigel Farage. You can't basically be a carbon copy of him, because no one would vote for that. If you are wanting Farage or you're a Farage supporter, you are going to vote for Farage. You aren't going to vote for a watered down version of Nigel Farage. No way. Sarah Fine, good evening to you. So they really end up now with a choice between crazy and more crazy. Uh, yeah, yeah, pretty much essentially. This is exactly so exactly now what they've done. Exactly. I get the feeling now that the One Nation Tories are now reaping what they've sown. They've placated. They've placated. Can't even say it now. They've placated, of course, the swivel-eyed loons for so long instead of fighting back, and this is where they are now. Exactly, exactly. I agree with you. I agree with you on that one. They, they indulged them far too long, and this all happened when David Cameron won in opposition, where he was in coalition with the Lib Dems. What did they do? What did those 13 ERG MPs do? They kept on threatening, we will go join UKIP. If you do not offer us a referendum, we will go join UKIP. And that put David Cameron into a position of offering a referendum he did not want to do. And of course, well, we know the rest is history. If David Cameron had stared down those members and those MPs and basically told them, okay, there's the door, maybe things would have been different. Maybe things would have been fundamentally different. But who knows? Yeah, Sunak will be delighted to be in California by Easter. Maybe so. Maybe even sooner. Who knows? Who knows? That is very likely, Patrick. I think that is now very, very likely. Yeah, Lib Dems, main official party of opposition. That said Davies Gold. That's what he said. He said, I'm not interested in winning the next election. I'm interested in becoming the main party of opposition. And I think he is perfectly positioned, more so than ever. More so than ever. This now is like the golden opportunity for Ed Davey. If he plays his cards right, if the Lib Dems get all their ducks in a row and they play their cards right, they play the hand that they have been dealt very well, that could very well happen. That could very, very well happen. So a lot of Lib Dem people very, very happy this evening today with this decision, because that boosts their chances of that happening even more now. Oh yes, well, it's the Libertarian Party, of course. Of course, they're going to be more crazy than Farage. Anyway, so back to this. So, of course, that was just one MP, but when your entire data set is, of course, 120 people, there are, of course, 121 MPs, but Rishi Sunak, the outgoing party leader, was not voting. It would only need now a very relatively small change to create a significant effect. This, of course, a variation now of the most oldest significant lesson in politics: learn how to count. The other lesson, at least for some Tory MPs, is perhaps that they are not the 4D chess strategy masters that they'd like to think they are. Yeah, I think that sums it up. The Tories just completely lost how to count, and someone was playing 4D chess, or quite a couple of them were playing 4D chess, and they failed spectacularly on this. Yeah, they failed spectacularly on this. It would not shock me to find out that that was the case, that there was some 4D chess grandmasters in the Conservative Party think, wow, well, if we do this, if we do this, our candidate gets in. And of course, it hasn't. It's now opened up the doorway to both Kimmy Badnock and Robert Jerrick being the choice of the membership vote, to which, guess what? They're going to choose Kimmy Badnock. Yeah. Not know how to count. We've known that since Truss. Very true. Very true, Mr. L. So, this takes us, of course, to the second question. What does this mean? The most obvious answer is now it leaves the Conservative Party members with a relatively now narrow choice between two candidates firmly on the populist right in the party. Yes, of course, there are notable differences in both policy and approach. Jerrick will present himself as a candidate with a plan largely based around slashing migration, notably, of course, the immediate withdrawal from the European Convention on Human Rights, but also focusing on the NHS and the economy. Badnock's policy palette is, of course, less doctrinal. She will, of course, make out, of course, of her background now as an engineer and her desire to now puzzle out solutions to the UK's ills. She is, however, very clean and a vocal culture warrior who will, of course, delight in picking fights with opponents, sometimes over fairly trivial issues, as we have seen. And that is what many Tory MPs, I'm shocked, and have allowed her to get this far, but just goes to show you there's still a lot of cuckoo Tory MPs still in there. We'd thought maybe we got rid of like the worst of them, but no, there's still some there. Still some there thinking that they can do some on that. That's for sure. So, whilst gauging, of course, the size of the Tory membership, let alone, of course, its views, can be very tricky business, the working assumption is that they tend to lean further right than their party's MPs, so are unlikely to overly object to now such a choice. What could be more problematic, of course, or at least more significant, is the fact that Tory voters are a much broad church, and many of them have already fled to a party they felt to be was becoming now overly reform UK adjacent under its leaders from Boris Johnson onwards. And this is very true. This needs to be talked about. That since Boris Johnson, all like the centrist conservative membership has just been leaving the party, just less and less and less, doing a runner, going either to Labour, to the Lib Dems, or even just not even getting involved with another political party, just leaving the Conservative Party completely. We've talked about this before, the missing 10% that started a couple of years ago. That Lee Anderson was brought in as deputy chief chairman of the Tory party to try and fix. Only he can bring back that missing 10%. Well, he didn't succeed. They didn't even succeed at this election either. There's still that missing 10% of the Conservative Party that they used to have. Where's it gone? Because it didn't die off. That's far too soon to lose that amount of voters. It didn't seem to go to the Dems, didn't seem to go to Labour. Where's it gone? So I keep on saying this. There are fundamental questions that the Conservative Party are facing, and they are not facing them. And until they actually do, they are going to go nowhere. Nowhere on this, fundamentally. It is going to go terrible for them, just time after time after time. And electing this, being left in such a position like this, well, good luck. Good luck. Yeah, wonder if any Conservative MPs will jump ship next month. Who knows? Maybe not so soon. Maybe not so soon, but would not surprise me if there were one or two in the next couple of years that would do this. Would not surprise me if that were to happen. I think the main beneficiary wouldn't be Labour. I think it'd be the Lib Dems. I really, really do. Yep. Yeah, this is it. The missing 10% is simply staying at home because they can't vote for what the Tories have become. Yeah, very true. Very true. I like this. Whoever wins is just a steward of Minas Tory anyway, and they will be deposed when the king Boris Johnson Savosevic is at hand. Possibly, who knows? But we do know that Boris Johnson wants to come back. Maybe that happens as well. Maybe they get so desperate they bring back Boris Johnson. Maybe Kimmy Badenoch gets so desperate she brings back Boris Johnson. Ironically enough, it would be hilarious if Boris Johnson goes and runs in Rishi Sunak's seat when he steps down. That would be hilarious. It would be hilarious on a lot of levels. So let's finish this off then, because I want to get onto what Labour's and the Lib Dems' response has been to this. So both, of course, Jerrick and Badenoch are now likely to pursue former Tories who, of course, supported Nigel Farage's party in election, which can now open up more space for Labour and especially the Liberal Democrats. Christmas has come early to the blue wall, one Lib Dem official said, referring to the commuter belt seats where the party removed dozens of Conservatives MPs. The official party account reacted to the news by tweeting a brief video clip of a yellow Lib Dem tractor crashing through a blue wall of blue hay bales. With such triumphalism, much like Cleverly's confidence, can prove very misplaced. Only time will tell. One thing, however, remains certain. Even in opposition, the Conservatives have not lost their ability to surprise. Oh boy, is that right? Oh boy, was that right? But anyway, let's get more, of course, into what the response has been from the Labour and the Lib Dems over this, because oh boy, has it been most gleeful indeed. So the next Conservative leader will be from the populist right of the party after Kimmy Badenoch and Robert Jerrick were selected as the final two candidates, with Tory MPs eliminating James Cleverly in a stunning turnaround. In a result which left many Conservatives shocked and some Labour and Lib Dems officials now openly delightful, the final vote of the Tory MPs saw Badenoch come first, just ahead of Jerrick, with Cleverly last. Cleverly, the shadow secretary, and of course the last remaining candidate from the party's centre, had topped the previous round of voting on Tuesday, and of course was the favourite to win, including the final round amongst party members. I don't trust that. I do not trust that vote at all, because if you've looked time and time again of Conservative Home, which polls properly and I think a lot deeper than people think about Conservative Party members, time and time again, they've said it with gleeful abandon. We want Kimmy Badenoch. And Kimmy Badenoch in the head-to-head, who would win in a head-to-head in the final two, beats everyone. The only person Robert Jerrick loses to, guess what? Kimmy Badenoch. Yeah. Who in their right mind would allow Spafford Johnson back in the party? Wouldn't that be a complete death nail for the very own leadership brain? Well, desperation. Like I say, the Conservative Party is going to be in for a very, very interesting couple of years, because it's only going to go from bad to worse to disaster. I mean, they're already, an on-fire dumpster party. Things can only get worse for them. I mean, that's very true. Dig up Maggie. I mean, just bring in a necromancer already and try and revive Margaret Thatcher. That's very true. Oh, yeah, it's very May of 2016. um, anyway, let's get back to this. So, the results, of course, announced by Bob Blackman, the chair of the party's 1922 committee, saw Cleverly, of course, lose support, going from 39 votes on Thursday to just one away from the 40 needed to guarantee a spot to 37. Badnock went from 30 votes to 42, and Jerrick moved from 31 to 41. The final decision will now be made in a ballot of the Conservative Party members on November the 2nd. The result was, of course, met with dismay among some Tory MPs, many of whom were, of course, of the more moderate One Nation wing of the party, yet were left with a choice between, of course, two right wingers as a result of attempts of tactical voting, saying, "We've just been a bit too clever by half," one said. Yeah, they generally, I think what happened was they actually tried to do some tactical voting, and there was no central command about how to do tactical voting of where you need to go. Yeah, would not surprise me if that's really what happened in all this. That this was really what happened. That this was, they screwed themselves over by trying to vote tactically. It would not surprise me if that was the case. It really would not surprise me. So another Tory MP said that they were now getting messages from local members saying, "What the hell are you doing?" Like I say, going to be on the Tory membership side, going to be a very interesting 2 weeks because I think they're going to have a lot to say. I think there's going to be a lot of dooming and glooming from a lot of a lot of people in like the Tory membership side of this. Party insiders have, of course, said it was very striking about how many more moderate party members had, of course, engaged in this contest, adding further momentum to Cleverly's bid. Nadine Dorris, the former cabinet minister, said MPs had one job: to be normal and vote for the person who was best placed to lead you. It really wasn't that hard. Wow. When when even Nadine Dorris, when even Nadine Dorris is calling you out for your inability to count, um, yeah, I think that sums it up. I think that very much sums it up. Yeah, couldn't organize a drinks party in the Commons bar. That's very, very true. So during the party's conference, of course, in Birmingham last week, Cleverly urged party members to be more normal. Imagine being in a political party, and one of your potential leadership candidates goes, "Okay, sit down, everyone. I need to tell you something. You all need to be more normal. Like, I'm sorry, guys, but you're not normal enough." Just it, if I was in a political party and that happened, I'd be looking for the exit. I'd be looking for the exit straight away. I'd be looking for the exit straight away. And exactly, you're in a mess when Mad Nads is the sane and rational one. I know what universe have we fallen into where that's the case when Nadine Dorris is the actual normal and sane person in the room? what what mad crazy universe have we fallen into? So this latest twist, of course, in the contest now immediately conjectures now of the plotting and vote leading, including the notion that Cleverly's team sought to obviously keep Badenoch, initially seen as the favourite for party members, off the final ballot by a very badly miscalculation, or should we say, or very, very cleverly of him. However, a source in Cleverly's team said there was, quote, absolutely no coordinated vote lending from our campaign at any point. And a source in Derek's camp said the same. Someone was doing something somewhere. It will come out sooner or later. Maybe not for some time. Who knows? I think someone was doing something behind the scenes, because it just seems so weird to go from yesterday's vote to today's vote. Very, very strange what happened. Very, very strange indeed. So other MPs suggest that some supporters of Tugendhat, who were eliminated on Tuesday, assumed that they would follow a very centrist Cleverly, was of course guaranteed a spot, at least the last two, and thus decided to either back Badenoch due to the distaste of Derek's pledge to pull the UK out of the European Convention on Human Rights. Whatever happens, it means the next leader of the opposition will be firmly on the right of the party, with the main differences between Derek and Badenoch ones of just emphasis. Derek has now pushed policies around migration, while Badenoch has focused more on culture war issues and now institutional reform. And that's what's going to win it for Badenoch. The fact that she is going after these culture war issues and she's going after institutional reform. Because if there's one thing that played very, very well to that Tory crowd at that conference, it really was when Badenoch said, "You know what? About 5 to 10% of of civil servants are so bad, and I mean so bad they should be in jail." That went down very, very well with the Conservative Party membership. It didn't go down well, of course, with like the rest of the voting public. But at that point, she doesn't need to. She just needs to play to the Conservatives. And that comment went down very, very well. Very, very well indeed. I don't think a lot of people paid attention to the fact that that did go down very well with a lot of, the Conservative membership. So Ian Dale going to be having a hissy fit tomorrow morning. So if you want someone to watch, what follow Ian Dale, he might already be pitching a fit as far as we know. In fact, we'll look at tell you what, we'll look up. Let's see. What has Ian Dale said in response to all this mess? I'm just very, very interested. Ian Dunt, Ian. It's no, here he is. Let's see what he said on this. Let's see. Because here it is. Yeah, his only response to this is, "Oh my effing god." That was 5 hours ago. Yeah, he is gonna be melting down. He is gonna be in an absolute meltdown. he is not going to be good on this. That's for sure. Has he said anything else yet? No, just that's just his been response. Our response. Oh, let's have a look. Jacob Rees-Mogg. What's Jacob Rees-Mogg said here to this? No, he hasn't said anything. It's kind of strange. Has Nigel Farage said anything? Yeah, yeah. This is it on GB News. He said, "I'm pretty confident that Kemi Badenoch will fall flat on her face pretty quickly." He said that Kemi Badenoch is one of the most inconsistent MPs in Westminster. Yep, he's probably pretty happy at the at that. Yep, so he's probably pretty happy that that's going on as well. Michael Gove. Has Michael Gove said anything in response to this? No, he said nothing in response to that one. That nope. So not even Michael Gove has said anything about that. That's very strange. That's very strange. A very, very quiet Michael Gove on that one. Patrick H. Looking forward to James O'Brien's reaction. We'll probably get that tomorrow. Richard Grumpy Git, good evening to you. Isn't it now a total reshape, of course, of UK politics, including Labour? How do you know what you're going to end up with and what the political landscape will look in 5 years? I said before earlier on, you cannot predict what the next general election is going to bring. And you are right. The political, I think, landscape has changed. Has it changed drastically? I don't think that drastically, Simon. Has it changed? Yes. Is it changing? Yes. Drastically? Not as drastically as I think people are saying, but it has changed. Very, very much so for the Tories because they have not adapted. We know that people's attitudes of like, are you social conservative is dying off. People are becoming more saying that they're more economically liberal than they are socially conservative. So that fundamentally is going to be a big shift in the voting bloc. The Conservatives aren't prepared for that. They are ignoring, of course, the demographic, the age demographic problem that they've got going on. The fact that no one under 40 wants to vote for them. Even when you get up to 50, less people are now in that age bracket from 40 to 50 want to vote for them. Fundamentally, that's a big problem for that one. Yeah, the extremists have got more extreme, exactly. And yeah, I think fundamentally, while politically the landscape has changed, hasn't changed seismically, but there have been some very significant changes. It's that the Conservative Party has not adapted to those changes. Meanwhile, Lib Dems, Labour absolutely have. Absolutely, fundamentally have changed. Very much so. So we cannot predict what the 2029 election will happen. It's still far too far out to really say, but we'll see what happens. We will fundamentally see what happens. But I'll tell you one surefire prediction. By the time we get to the 2029 general election, there will have been at least 2 or even 3 leadership elections in the Tory party. That I can say without a shadow of a doubt of certainty. Yeah, I think Badenoch is the gateway leader for Farage, and then Farage steps in. That's true. If Badenoch makes the mistake of inviting Farage or doing anything like that in the party, that is going to be fundamentally different. But we'll see. We'll actually see if Farage wants to consume the Tory party, or whether he thinks it's just better for him to be like the spoiler party, to just sit there on the right and just hog like 14, 15% of the right-wing vote. We'll see what happens. We'll see what direction he takes reforming. That will certainly be very interesting. But you never know. What if Farage next year suddenly has a heart attack and dies? Fundamentally, reform might be very different without Nigel Farage. You never know. But anyway, let's go back to this. So, of course, both have all argued that they can unite the party. None of them can. Jerrick was, of course, very much seen as, was long, of course, seen as a centrist. However, he has quit as immigration minister of Rishi Sunak's government. He has since taken a more right-leaning and sometimes very populist approach, promising to immediately pull the UK out of the European Court of Human Rights if he becomes prime minister. Again, there are huge consequences. Journalists, please start asking about those consequences, because that's what you don't see. That's what always annoys me on that. Jerrick, of course, has been explicitly couched on the issue of the withdrawal in Brexit-style terms, calling this an issue of leave or remain. He says that he wants to, quote, get migration done. Badenoch has, of course, taken a more nuanced approach to this issue. Speaking after Wednesday's result, she said to Sky News that focusing on it shuts down the conversation that we need to have as the entire country about migration. While Jerrick told Sky News she could absolutely pledge, of course, a clean contest, his camp was already now sought to try highlight their opponent's fondness for battles over culture war issues. Tory members would, of course, source in Jerrick's camp said that they faced a very serious choice between voting for a candidate with a very serious plan and detailed policies, or be risk drowning now into endless rabbit holes, Twitter spats, and of course distractions. And the thing is, that's what the Conservative membership loves, and that's why she's going to win. That's why Kimmy Badenoch is going to win right there, because that's what the Conservative membership wants. So after the result, cleverly said on Twitter, sadly, it wasn't to be. We are all Conservatives, and it's important the Conservative Party unites to try and take on this catastrophic Labour government. Labour, of course, characterised the Tory members as, quote, a task between choosing two of the architects of Tory failure, emphasising the ministerial roles held by both Badenoch and the Shadow Housing Secretary and Jerrick. That's very true. In private, cabinet ministers were very gleeful, one person told The Guardian. After a few weeks off, it looks like Keir's genie is now back at work. In a very jokey reference to the government's donations row, a Labour MP added, "Does the Tory leadership results need to be declared as a gift?" That's very true. I like that. The Liberal Democrats said, if this were an interview process, then they would have put the job to advert again. But the best the Conservatives can come up with is a failed former minister who would vote for Donald Trump and a failed former minister who thinks maternity pay is too excessive. and that's true. That is the vote. Neither of those is going to play well with the general public. Neither of those things is going to play well with the general public at all, whatsoever. Jericho, of course, he said that he would back Trump if he was in the US, while Badenoch's comments about maternity pay were, of course, amongst of a serial controversial comments she made during last week's conference, which some believe might have affected her chances of success. I don't think it did. Like I say, you look at those comments, you look at Conservative Home, what was said about that, what many of the commenters were saying on that, they were coming across very, very positive. A lot of people have forgotten and not even looked at what the Conservative Party is saying. The Conservative Party has been saying for a long while, and I've been saying the same thing as well, they want Kimmy Badenoch. Like, they want Kimmy Badenoch. They want her hard. That is who they want. So her chances of winning, incredibly strong at the next round. Be very surprised if she loses, but it's her race to win. So throughout the contest, of course, multiple Tory MPs said that they were very concerned that she might be, of course, a liability as leader, as she could be very rude and abrasive. But before the election, she was accused of creating an intimidating atmosphere in the gun department she used to run. None of those are going to be brought up, of course. None of those are. They want Badenoch hard. They want her. We've been over this. We've seen the polls. We've looked at it countless times. I mean, just right there, the party wants someone to start fights on Twitter. That's what the membership wants, because that to them is a sign of strength. And it's what they want. It's what they've been saying for a while now. What I've been saying throughout all this contest. Kimmy Badenoch makes it to the final two, she wins. I've been saying this for the longest time. It is not going to shock me when she wins. It will shock me if she loses. That's very true. But hey, she's got more chance of winning than I think people think. She is absolutely, I think, going to win. So, yeah. That's what's going to happen. Um, are we surprised? No. And they're already coming out with it now. There's one here. The new Tory leader will be Badnock or Jerrick. Either would, of course, be a one-way ticket to another political planet. Wouldn't surprise me if there's something up at Conservative Home maybe gone up about this. Um, Daniel Hanan, but it's not on the vote. But it didn't before. Oh, what's this? None of the leadership candidates are for the job. Oh, that's very interesting. Oh, oh, this is interesting. Oh, 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 I'd be remiss not to send you off after reading this. Oh, hold on, class. Teachers just found something fun to teach you about. This coming from Conservative Home of all places. None of the leadership candidates are up to the job. Let's go over this, shall we? Let's see what this is. So watching the Conservative leadership contest speech last week left me with a profound sense of dismay. Yet I was yet to get behind any particular candidate. This now remains the case. With members' votes looming, I must really make a decision. The problem is that I am completely uninspired. Maybe I'm just too picky, but I think that's fair to say when you're considering the leader of the party, the opposition, and a potential prime minister. You want the best possible options. And unfortunately, I'm not sure how good ours are. Wow, an honest Tory on Conservative Home. I understand the party's now terrible performance at the election narrowed the pool of candidates very significantly, that I have yet to make any specific interest in any of the MPs who want my vote. Kimmy Badnock talks the right talk. See what I said there? What have I been saying? Kimmy Badnock says something, causes a massive controversy, but to the Conservative Party membership, that's the right talk. This is a very similar thing to what happened with Trump. And no, I'm not saying that Kimmy Badnock is like the UK version of Trump. We've already had that in Boris Johnson, but she knows what the membership wants to hear their leadership saying, and so she says it. And that's how one of the reasons why she became so popular. Anyway, it continues. So she has a very strong understanding of the again importance of cultural issues. They're not important, but there you go. And of course, that was made her popular. Again, I agree with you on that. And of course, with many more of the Conservative Party of the wing, she also talks about the negative role of the state of overregulation. The problem is that I do not see a plan. How is she going to obviously shrink the state? How is she going to change the societal norms regarding culture when she doesn't want to involve the state in everything? Again, very true. But that's probably true of every single Tory going. James Cleverly at least showed a bit more charisma and affability. Well, he's out of the contest now. I've met him. He's a nice guy who listened to my question and answered it well. His speech was, of course, well received at the conference. Unfortunately, recent news about his involvement in the Chagas Islands affair has somewhat soured now his reputation. And in a time of global strife, can we actually trust his judgment? Yeah, the Chagas Islands, handing that back to Mauritius, I think was fine. We really didn't need a base there. The whole pivot east is pretty much what it was left over from. We just do not need a base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, quite frankly. We just don't need it. But it has upset a lot of conservatives. A lot of conservatives, mostly the China hawks in the party, vastly upset about that. Tom Tugendhat. He speaks the importance of course, military and defense in a time of crisis, which I do appreciate. Unfortunately, I do not know what he stands for beyond that. Even worse, he's got a tendency, of course, to flip-flop. Just 2 years ago, Tugendhat did not support leaving the European Court of Human Rights, but now he claims he is prepared to leave it. I do understand that, of course, people change their minds. God knows I have, but the timing is very suspicious, don't you think? Yeah, and everyone thought that. Even I said, why is he flip-flopping on this? Because 2 years ago, yeah, he was saying that, and now he's flipped on this position completely. And like he said a lot of very harsh and critical things to those other Tories who were calling to leave it. And yet, what happened? Why did he change his mind? Oh, that's right. He fundamentally changed how he was going to run for the Tory leadership. And I've said this many, many times before. If Tugendhat had run his last campaign, if he had run his last campaign again, maybe things would be different. Maybe things would be different. Maybe he would be the James Cleverly today. Who knows? Maybe he'd be going into the final two. Who knows? Maybe one of the great what if questions of the Conservative political party history. Who knows? But let's not forget, of course, Robert Jerrick. He's, of course, given the people what they want with strong rhetoric, of course, on immigration. But it all seems rather new, like Tugendhat. I do not know where he stands on a lot of issues. He is desperately trying to crown himself as the heir to Thatcher, especially when he announced that it is his daughter's middle name. Of course, why not Margaret? Exactly. It's so weird to sort of name your middle name daughter Thatcher, but there you go. Of course, it was all very well and good to try and sell a vision, but how are they able to, of course, share that vision? After all, both the country and the Conservative Party are now incredibly low points. We are burdened with the highest taxes since the days of Clement Attlee, uncompetitive wages, and of course, a highest cost of living, which includes rent and housing costs. Well, why did that happen? why did most of that stuff actually happen when you guys have been in power for 14 years? It's like whenever they talk about that stuff, like, oh, well, all these things. These guys have been in power for 14 years. They've been in power for 14 years, and since 2019, and in 2019 they had a massive majority. So back to this. Whilst the Labour Party, of course, promised the earth when campaigning, when it came down to it, people weren't voting for them because they liked what they said. Again, you can say that all you want, but you know, a lot of people say otherwise. They still voted for them. At the end of the day, they won enough vote percentage to get a heck of a lot of MP seats, and of course, it's MP seats is what wins it, not vote share. A YouGov poll obviously did reveal that a whopping 48% of respondents said that their main reason for voting Labour was to get the Tories out. Again, shock horror. 13% said that the country, of course, needed to change, and only 5% agreed with their policies. If this is to reflect the country at large, and the Conservatives do need a shake-up. And that ain't going to happen for some time. The Conservatives, of course, in opposition, not government. I know that. Their wings are, of course, clipped, especially with such a stonking majority. Still, I do want a leader of the opposition who will at least hold the government to account. With Labour's very controversial policies, including means testing and winter fuel payment, many of their MPs are having now a penchant for freebies. Not about your own MPs, but there you go. We need the Conservatives to keep that on their toes. Again, Conservatives still receiving a lot of freebies. Unfortunately, I do not see any of the candidates doing that. Whilst I might see some popcorn-worthy moments, at least PMQs, that does not mean that they are going to be any good. The role of new leader is also trying to steer the party to an electoral position. None of them is going to be able to do that. This involves more than just being a palpable figure to the public. It involves actually shaping the party's ideological position. they can't do that because they're already in an ideological position and they've got blinkers on completely. They refuse to acknowledge that their ideological position is been what has been hurting them for so long. They've insisted it's something else. It's the culture war. It's the woke. It's the blob. You know, in Liz Truss, you know, pick your favorite vegetable. Who knows what she's blaming this week, but yeah, she's probably blaming something. so So it involves shaping the party's ideological position, reshaping its members, and of course, now standing, of course, in public life. One's a candidate may be more charismatic than the other, but again, charisma does not equal electable. Again, very true. Ideology aside, I do still feel, though, that none of the candidates are quite up to the mark. Wow, this person has been incredibly honest. Disagree with some of the things she said there, but oh boy, is she calling it? Is she calling out this? She is calling a lot of stuff on this out. That's true. So could the next leader, of course, I could be wrong. They could be, of course, the next Winston Churchill. That's very even doubtful. But I do somewhat doubt that. They may not even make it to the next election before even a scandal or a vote of no confidence hits them. Whatever the case, the ballot, of course, hits my inbox. I will be very hesitating. Whoever are the final two, when I vote, my heart will not be in it. I'm willing to be persuaded, but if you do have a strong view of convincing argument, I am all ears. Until then, I am feeling very much in disarray. Let's see what they had to say in the comments. So maybe the Tory leadership issue is just one of those cases where you just have to throw a random solution at the problem, just hope that it will work. Wow. Yeah. Good on that. But this will obviously be our fifth now attempt in 8 years. The last 4 were disasters. When does it become time to throw the towel and just admit that we are ungovernable? Someone else said, Badnock now is all hot air and dishonest nonsense. Her record shows that she actually supports higher immigration and surrendering to the EU. Cleverly is a very wet liberal who always is always to toe the establishment line, as with the Chagos Islands. And Jerrick is, well, who knows? Even Jerrick is even the most sincere patriot. He's of trust trying to claim it. To be clear, that would be unable to lead the party, of course, in that direction, given the number of MPs who support him is so small and actually shrinking. No, I do not think anything will actually persuade me to return from the party that Reform UK it is them. Farage is currently on a eco trip like all of his other previous political parties. The wheels will soon drop off the Reform bandwagon when he gets bored, and his little band of MPs will then fall out of each other. Very true. A lot of people are predicting that and have predicted that multiple times. In the meantime, just blaming for everything for this dreadful Labour government is inflicting on all of us because it was the vanity Nigel playing politics who split the vote and handed Starmer the landslide nobody wanted to have. Yeah, correct. Whoever wins will just be a caretaker leader until they come forth. More likely, the party breaks up. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, I like this. This article is an absolute snooze. Can we have more from the young Atkinson? Oh, please, God, no. The young lad has only 1 year's work experience behind him, and he has all the gravitas of an intern, which essentially is what he is. There is a reason why I do call him, you know, our favorite T-boy over at the Conservative home. Oh dear. Someone else said, having just seen the latest immigration figures for last year's under the Tories, I wonder why, if any of our 4 leadership candidates will have the nerve to claim they will be able to reduce immigration. The problem is not just the boats, but tens of thousands we actually need to work in the NHS and, of course, care homes. Pick fruit, sweep the street, and do all the dirty jobs the native workers just won't undertake. That is the big issue. It will take time, investment, and training to replace all these migrant workers that we currently need. Let all the candidates talk about dealing with all that conundrum rather than pretending to revisit the Rwanda scheme. That would not make the slightest bit of difference. I love this. This is the argument that gets stumped instantly. So someone instantly commented, "This misunderstands the problem. It is not that the natives do not want those jobs. It is that there isn't enough workers, full stop. So we import immigrants to do them, while the natives then fill the higher paid, easier jobs. So training will solve nothing. It will just be a fig leaf for whoever will disagree with it, having a well-trained workforce. And avoid discussing the very core issue solutions the political right do not want to talk about and would hate: an industrial strategy, planning deregulation, deflating our housing asset bubble, and rerouting expenditure from an ever-growing pensioner handout to long-term capital investment, etc., etc." Well, didn't expect it to go that way, but wow, I'm pleasantly surprised by a comment from Conservative Home. But there you go. um, Someone else here. So yeah, that's the first time I've seen something like this calling out all the candidates that they're just all bad. That's the very first time I've seen such a article on here. But wow, yeah. Holy moly! So we await next week. Hopefully, I'm free. If we are free, well then, guess what we'll be watching together. guess what we'll be watching together. Again, hopefully I am free that evening. Hopefully, fingers crossed, if I can swing it. But if not, as always, thank you very much for joining me this evening. As always, thank you very much for everyone watching. Please do remember to hit the like and share button on your way out. Like I say, links down below for all the other stuff. Thank you very much to everyone who does help and support the channel. But as always, have an absolutely fantastic evening, everyone. I will see you on Saturday morning for the Good Morning Walk, weather permitting. I think it might be an indoor walk at this point, by the looks of it. But hey, you never know. Fingers crossed. But I am not holding my breath for it. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time. So until then, cheerio.